The views and opinions of this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. There is substantial risk of loss in trading futures and options, which you should carefully consider prior to trading. Well, it's time now to get an update on what is happening with the fertilizer markets here in the U.S. and around the world. We always like to keep an eye on those inputs closely, even during the ongoing growing season. We want to think about what fall application could look like, where things stand, et cetera, et cetera. So joining us now for a conversation about the fertilizer markets, he is the VP of Fertilizer at StoneX, Josh Linville. Josh, welcome back to Market Talk. It's good to catch up with you again, my friend. How are you?
You as well. Tired trying to keep up with everything going on around the world with the markets, but keep them ahead above water. So that's all we can ask most days.
I would agree. I think day to day, I always find something that I kind of just look at it and go, man, oh man, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. I don't know how to handle all this, but you know what? We manage. That's how this business goes. Um, let's start just with logistics real quick. Obviously, we're watching Hurricane Beryl's path of destruction through the Caribbean and some concerns about what it might do in the Gulf. So that's one thing. And then we have all the flooding through the upper Midwest and rising levels on the Mississippi and Missouri rivers, for instance, and more downstream. So, I mean, logistically, with weather right now, any major concerns that could impact the fertilizer market, Josh?
It looks like that hurricane is going to stay south enough. It shouldn't have any tremendous effects on any sort of fertilizer shipments or anything like that, but it does act as a reminder. It wasn't that long ago that we had hurricanes shoving right up into the mouth of the Mississippi River. And it just takes one storm to completely disrupt that. Today, everything's doing okay. But yeah, we're in that time of season where we're kind of hurricane hunters, just like everybody else is, to see, do we need to watch this? So today, no issues. Tomorrow, who knows? The biggest pressing issue today, it's been the rainfall. Tons and tons of rain up north. I know here, just outside the window, we can see the Missouri River, and she's full. A lot of reports up and down the rivers that bottom ground is getting flooded out. Probably not going to get planted this year. Not going to have a crop on it. And we started thinking about that about a week or two ago in terms of what does this mean for barge shipments. And now we are finally starting to see reports on the Mississippi. Some of these locks are getting closed. Now it's a short-term situation. We think it gets flushed out relatively quickly. A couple disruptions we can handle, especially this time of the year, right? We're far enough removed from the fall season. We can make up that time, but not if it continues to get worse. Again, here, just up in St. Joe, Missouri, another 3+ inches of rain last night. More systems are coming through tonight and tomorrow. If we stay on this trend and the river systems stay high and it continues to impact barges in a longer term situation, it's a new story.
I wonder too, with a lot of that flooded ground that we're going to have crop loss on, no doubt, and nutrient loss and leaching and even soil erosion potentially. Does that set us up for a situation this fall where we might need some extra fertilizer inputs to kind of make up for some of those losses potentially, Josh?
It's a possibility. It really comes down to what we're trying to figure out is, do we need to make up some of that? Or are we going to see some losses? Because let's face it, grain prices have not been phenomenal. I know there's an awful lot of focus on the flooded ground and the flooding and things like that. What we lose sight of, though, is the ground that isn't flooded. The crops are looking tremendous. I can tell you around home, I mean, it is like a postcard. And so will the price of the grains be right to make it to where people want to grow corn next year? And then, of course, buy the fertilizer for next year. I mean, there's a lot of questions. Unfortunately, here we are sitting in the beginning of July, and we have started to look at our new fertilizer year, which started July 1, started 2 days ago, trying to kind of get our heads wrapped around what to expect, what we're looking for. But it is so early. It's tough to call.
Okay. Well, we'll keep our eyes on that as we move forward. Let's talk various fertilizers, inputs globally. What's that global picture looking like right now as we start the new fertilizer years you mentioned? I mean, what are some key things you're watching around the world right now, Josh?
Of course, like we always do, we're watching for any of these major global conflicts. Now, fortunately, things have really slowed down. Things have calmed down. The Middle East, you're not hearing much out of that region. Russia continues to invade Ukraine, but that, we haven't seen anything as far as a heightened situation. We're still watching the China-Taiwan thing, but again, we're not seeing anybody take any steps forward like what we had in the past that were really getting us worried. And the reason we look at these is because, of course, all three of those regions, major fertilizer producers, major fertilizer exports, and any sort of a ramp up in tension that impacts fertilizer, we're going to see prices up around the world. But fortunately, we're not seeing that today. Nitrogen market is getting challenged right now. India has stepped in. It looks like they're going to make a major purchase. The market is expecting them to lock up 1 to 1.5 million tons. We'll get the details of that early next week, but the global urea markets have moved up pretty significantly, but there's a lot of signs that they could back off. So that's going to be something we're watching. The other biggest thing in their face right now is China. The government has stepped in. They have been reducing the number of tons of phosphate that's getting the global markets a little bit more excited. They have also continued to put restrictions on global urea, which is keeping that market very, very tightly supplied. So, as big of a world it is, it really comes down to a few points that we're watching closely.
I wonder too, and you mentioned that crop prices and things like that. I know there's some trepidation out there in farm country right now in terms of the overall ag economy. Have to wonder, maybe some conversations you've been having with folks. Are folks really, are they jumping to lock in any sort of fall needs now? Are they waiting because they're concerned about the overall economy? I mean, what are some of those conversations you're having surrounding fertilizer inputs right now?
They're not happy conversations. Anything surrounding the farm economics is not happy for 2024. The outlook for 2025 is not much better. So right now, the biggest thing in front of us from a fertilizer perspective is that fall demand, and that is anhydrous, that is phosphate, and that is potash. Anhydrous, we don't yet have those fall prepay programs out yet, so we don't know how good or bad price they are. We still need to see how that plays out. Should they have that here sooner than later? Potash has come out. Honestly, potash is actually very well priced. Potash manufacturers have done a very good job of getting that price down and keeping it down in line with where corn prices are and every other crop out there. So it's continued to hold and should be a very good demand product. Phosphate's a concern. Phosphates have been rising. Inventories are very, very tight. Yet that's the first one a lot of people sit there and say, I need to look at that and decide, can I skip it? Can I delay it? Can I reduce the application rate? When we look at that DAP and MAP price versus, let's just say, 2025 corn right now, some of the worst ratio relationships that we've seen going back to 2018. It's easily in that top 25, which in this case, you don't want to be in the top 25%. The worst 25%, they are both easily in that sector today. But unfortunately, not a lot of signs it's getting any better anytime soon.
And that's part of the tough conversation. I mean, how does someone manage that when those margins do not look friendly and you're not quite sure what you're going to put in the ground in 25, for instance, maybe things like that? I mean, I know it's kind of got to come down to your operation and your balance sheet, basically, right, Josh?
Absolutely. And again, I'm never in a position I need to tell any farmers what they should and shouldn't be doing. That's not my role. That's not my place. I should never be doing that. However, if I was in that seat, I think I would probably be having a lot of conversations, number one, with my supplier, with my retailer. What do they see as supply issues? Do you see any supply issues? Have you got enough that you think you can get through fall and you'll be ready for me? And if not, what information do you need from me to make a better decision from your side? So I think that's one conversation I would be having. Number two, to have a real good, hard internal conversation about what your ground does or doesn't need. Do I need to have full application rates of phosphate to max out my yields next year? We never want to cut the yields, right? Do I need to just put on normal or higher to catch up? Can I reduce that? Let's have a conversation with the retailer. If I normally go in fall, can I wait till winter or spring and hope things get better? There are things that can be done, but it might be outside of what we consider normal and or comfortable.
Well, Josh, good thoughts as always as we kind of wrap up our conversation today. I know, of course, we're going to have to watch the ebb and flow here of the fertilizer markets. Anything else you would add that you're watching around the world, or anything you would reiterate to producers listening in today?
It's just have that conversation. I realize here we sit in early July. November is a very long way away. We got a lot of hot days ahead of us.
Mhm.
but it's going to be here in a moment's notice. I mean, we are literally going to blink our eyes. I mean, you got a new kid growing up fast,
Mhm.
right? It happens quick. So same thing on the fertilizer. We're going to be there in a snap of a finger. It is not too soon to be having those conversations. And I understand we're not thrilled about giving all of our information. I'm not saying that we should, but with some of the logistical and some of the supply issues that we continue to have here in the background, it's better to have that conversation today than hope for tomorrow.
Well, Josh, I know as well, I believe weekly commentaries you're posting on fertilizer markets on the StoneX YouTube channel, or well, your own Josh Linville YouTube channel, right?
Yep. And actually, after we get done with this, I need to get that recorded. I'm going to go through the global urea market and talk about who are the biggest exporters, who's in good shape, who is risky, where does things move. Trying to make it a little more educational than anything. So, yeah, I've got to get that done before we get to the weekend.
Well, you can find a link to those videos on our website, markettalkag.com. We appreciate Josh providing us the commentary and for the time here today on the show. Thanks for being with us. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, sir.
Make sure to subscribe to the Market Talk YouTube channel. You can watch our latest interviews with top market analysts in the country, find bonus content, and much more. It's easy. Just go to youtube.com/@markettalkag and hit the subscribe button. Or you can search for Market Talk Ag on YouTube.